This is the last presentation. It's called Cracking the Code to Successful Real Estate Marketing. For this, I'm delighted to welcome back to this very stage Anne Boothello. Anne is the Product Marketing Manager at Dubizzle and has been part of the real estate industry for the last 9 years. Her roots are deep in UAE culture, having been born and raised here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Anne Boothello.
Thank you. Thank you, Mario. It's great to be back. I hope everyone is really stressed out with all the talk about disruption, blockchain technology, and what have you. I hope to change that a little bit and leave you a little inspired by the end of my talk. I'd like to start this by really taking a moment just to think about this entire day. I was here for the last 2 panels and the two talks before that, and it's been all around disruption. So I want to start this talk really with one thought. There's nothing permanent except change. Really think about that. There's nothing permanent except change. How many people in this audience, I'd like a show of hands, are experiencing some change in their life? Personal life, business plans, family plans, food plans, vegan or not to vegan is the new one on the coffee table discussions. Well, my hand's all the way up on all fronts. And with that thought, I want to start this talk because everything revolves around change. And as Mario said, if we don't embrace it, we're not going to be creating the proper business plans needed to actually move our business forward. We're not going to be creating the marketing strategies that are really going to change our business. So let's start at ground zero. Where are we right now in the UAE? What are our problems that keep resounding in our head, keep resounding around leadership boardroom discussions? Well, the first thing is difficult sellers, right? Everyone's talking about difficult sellers in the market. But really, if you were to put yourself in the owner's shoes, and I know a lot of you are owners in this room, if you were to put your property out in the market, what would you need to actually make that sale? What are the ideal economic conditions that you'd need to make that sale? What's the data you'd require from an agent that's trying to sell your property? There's a more aware buyer segment, so we know this as a fact. I mean, gone are the days when you'd have people coming with bags of cash that dump into a property knowing that the floor plan was going to change in 24 hours. That's not there anymore. There's a change in landscape. There's more mortgage buyers versus cash buyers in the market. And we know, everyone in the room knows who owns a real estate company, that there's a need for highly skilled agents to handle this change. So change is constant. How are we going to deal with this change? That's what's on the agenda. And then I'm going to give you a few key takeaways to leave with, and hopefully you can use it next week and kickstart change management within your companies. So let's start with local change. What's happening currently? I mean, we had Rira in the talks this morning, talking about government regulations, change on that front. All the talk about VAT, all the talk about blockchain technology, there's change. But we started the foundations. The government regulations. Last year, around this time, we all know that RERA permits were introduced. Dubizzle took that on. I mean, we now only allow agents with RERA permits to list on Dubizzle in the UAE. It took us some time to implement this, in all honesty, purely because we have the largest number of agencies that list on Dubizzle. So we've got 1,200 agencies that list, and we wanted a smooth transition. So that's one thing. The second thing, there's a lot of initiatives from the government now to try and improve industry standards. The Real Estate Institute is trying to do things to try and get the agents' game up. So we actually collaborated. We're the only property portal to collaborate with the Real Estate Institute to offer every agent who's registered with Dubizzle a 20% off educational courses that are actually put out and marketed by the Real Estate Institute. There's one that kicks off tomorrow. It's about real estate disruption, the big word that buzzes at every conference now. They talk about innovation and technology that's changing the real estate landscape globally. It's going to be conducted by an MIT professor. He heads international affairs around the real estate division. It should be a really good talk. But what I want to leave you with is, if you do want to register and you go to the Dubai Real Estate Institute website, click the drop-down menu, you can actually select MIT Dubizzle Partner, and then you would be able to get the 20% discount. So these are just some of the changes within the government and regulations. But what I want to touch on, the next thing, is the buyer profile. How are the buyers changing? We've seen a shift, as I mentioned, in mortgage purchases versus cash purchases. But there's another thing to pay attention to: nationality changes. So we took a look at the data that was pulled out by the Land Department and was shared not too long ago, 18 months worth of data that talked about the nationalities buying in the UAE. The first one being UAE nationals, totaled 12,000 transactions. The second being Indians, that totaled 10,000 transactions. The third being Pakistanis, 5,000 transactions. And then Saudi. And then last on the top 5 was UK. Now, we went back to the drawing board and we wanted to take a look at if this matched profiles on Dubizzle that were looking for property for sale. What we found out is, on Dubizzle, UAE nationals ranked 4th, talking about property for sale specifically, so there was a match. Indians ranked 1 on Dubizzle looking for property for sale, and this is just looking at the property for sale section. Pakistan ranked 2nd, KSA 11th, and the UK ranked 7 on Dubizzle. So we can see synergy, actually. These are the nationalities that are looking in the market, whether they're looking to see how the market is doing or whether they're going to buy is a different story. Dubizzle's used as a reference point for information. People come on to gauge market prices, to understand whether it's a good time to buy or not. But these are the people looking. What's the difference? We noticed China popped into the top 10 on the Dubai Land Department infographic that was released. On Dubizzle, it ranked 20, so it actually made the top 20 user profiles on property for sale. Lebanon ranked 9 on Dubizzle, as well as 9th on the Dubai Land Department report. And USA came in 12th on Dubizzle. So these are interesting insights to take away, because you need to look at who's looking in the UAE, who's moving to the UAE, are they end users or investors, and start defining your target audience. We also noticed, based on data that's readily available on the Land Department, that mortgage purchases are going up. So there's a rise, a steady rise over the years, and this dates back from 2007 all the way to 2017. Very interesting. We took a look then at top 10 apartment communities and villa communities for sale. So this is what we looked at in terms of buyer profiles on Dubizzle, people who are searching specifically in the last 3 months, active users on Dubizzle, to see what are the communities that they're looking at. And what we found is, within apartment communities, an increase in popularity in mid-market communities. So you had JVC pop up, you had International City, which is an old one, Dubai Sports City, and Dubai Silicon Oasis. In the villa communities, we had 6 out of 10 searches, top searches, that were actually from mid-market communities. So we're talking about Dubai Land was searched as a master development. It was one of the top searches. And then within that, you had the Villa Project, you had Jumeirah Village Circle, Mudan, Akoya, so on and so forth. So you can see right now that residential property less than 1,000 dirhams per square foot is actually the area that's gaining popularity. So This goes to say, how are we defining our segments and how are we talking to them? Is this the end user segment or are these cash buyers? Because that makes a whole difference in the way you actually put your properties out to market. How do you deal with this? There's two parts. There's fundamentals that you have to look at, and then there's the think big ideation. So let's start with the fundamentals. How do we deal? What are we doing right and wrong in our real estate brokerages? There's two parts. The first part is everything about the listing, right? So we need to make sure that the listing actually, when it's put out to market, is actually marketed right. I want to ask you, what do you think is the top attribute of a listing that's going to make it sell? Photos. I like that. You're answering, it's like you're talking to someone in marketing, but that's not it. The price, absolutely. That's the starting point. So the starting point for a listing is the price, and quality is definitely second on the list. And you've got to market to the right people, so it's very important to ask for data or look for data around buyer profiles. Where are they from? Are they mortgage buyers? Are they cash buyers? What have you? So let's get into the listing. Now, some of the content in this talk is not about Dubizzle putting forth what we believe. We actually in this together. So we got some of our agents who won awards. We have an award ceremony that takes place at the end of every year. We had the top 10 agencies that won awards in 2016 featured in 4 of the videos that are coming up. We wanted to know what makes it work for them. So the first video on the list is by also Paul Kelly, who talks about how do you price a property properly.
Hello, my name's Paul Kelly. I'm the Operations Director for Allsop and Allsop Real Estate. There's many elements to pricing the property. The first and foremost, the most important thing that we do is we go and visit the property. Gone are the days where people could say, I've got an O2 unit in such and tower and expect you to give them an accurate valuation. We have to see the condition of the property, whether there's been any upgrades and what the exact view is. The next important thing that we will do is to meet the homeowner. It should be a decision that's taken not just by us in terms of telling somebody the price, but it should also be the homeowner having a look at all the comparables, seeing what else is in the market and seeing what the buyer profiles are currently, that factor into the decision of what we feel together is the price that a property should come to the market at. There are a number of other factors. One can be the owner's desirability to sell. For instance, on average at the moment, we're taking anywhere between 70 and 90 days to sell a property. If an owner comes to us and says he wants to sell within 20 to 30 days, then obviously there's going to have to be a bit of a give on the price. The aim is to give as big a picture as possible to the homeowner and really educate them as to what else is happening in the market at the moment in order for us both, between us, to decide what value we feel a property should sit at.
The thing I liked about what Paul said is we decided together, and that's really what it is, right? Setting the price with the owner so that it actually sells and creating realistic pictures for the owner. Next on the list is Elite Estates, who talks a little bit about post-transaction services and how they differ from the type of buyer, whether it's an end user or an investor.
My name is Khaled Shamma, and I'm the owner of Elite Estates, real estate broker. For us in Elite Estates, we treat our customers as partners, so we can differentiate between two main kind of buyers if we're talking about buying. We have the end user buyer and we have the investor buyer. So when it comes to after sales process, or let's say service, when it comes to end user, we make sure the end user has received what we promised. And of course, we do some follow-up after the transaction is done to make sure the end user, let's say, moved to the unit, and because so many end users are new to the country. So we need to help them with the details about moving in and connecting the DEWA, sometimes the furniture, and all the small details. When it comes to the investor buyer, For the investor buyer, of course, this is a long-term relationship. So the investor buyer for us is a partner, is an investment partner. And we start by, say, proposing the unit until we do the transaction. And then we keep this relationship going on sometimes forever, because this investor, one day he would want to sell the unit, change the unit, buy another unit, and so on. So it's not an after-sale process as much as it is a long-term partnership with our buyers.
So pricing and relationship building, setting a buyer profile. And before I start that, this one's about agent profile. So the guys on the team who are actually going out to field and getting the job done, they need to be well-versed on the communities that they're working in. They need to be able to have the information and be able to communicate the right information and data to owners, buyers, and tenants. And Chesterton's actually gives us a good insight on how they set up their business around this.
Hello, my name's Robert Villalobos. I'm the Managing Director of Prestige Real Estate Brokers. For me, it's all about knowledge and credibility. Buyers and tenants, they haven't got time to waste with people that haven't got that credibility and knowledge of an area. It's important that agents really understand specific developments and locations, and it's important that agents can answer questions. And for us as a company as well, we actually have area specialists that actually live within those locations, and having that intimate knowledge, I think, does go a long way, and I think it does create that trust, because there is a lot of competition out there and there's a lot of agents. And for me personally, I think, my brokers, they need to become experts in their area. I think it is important that agents have understanding of the full process, from advertising the property, doing the viewings, negotiating, structuring a deal. Agents should know every aspect of every process, but at the same time, I think it is important that there is administrative support for the agents. Myself, I'd want to be involved in every decision and every piece of paperwork that needs to be done.
So constant training of agents makes for good teams. The thing I took away from that video was that Villalobos has a surname that's just as complicated as mine and makes for a good conversation starter, right? So I think he did a good job with that video. The last on the list goes back to your point, which was around quality and images and listings.
Hi, my name is Russell Owen and I'm Head of Agency for Chesterton's. Quality listings are extremely important for the brokerage. It's not just important for the actual broker, but it's important for the company and also for the client. Chesterton's has a very strict structure in terms of how we actually do our listings online. So for example, this is a typical listing that Chesterton's has. As you can see here on the right hand side, we have all the information with the RERA permit numbers, the license and contact telephone numbers of our agents. We have a minimum of 10 professionally taken photographs. The price here in line with the market value, the amount of bedrooms and bathrooms. We're giving as much factual information as possible so that we're putting the client in the best position possible to make an informed decision and choose the right property for them. The way that we actually do this is we have several admin assistants in the company. They will do the documentation in terms of the passport copies, the title deeds and the NOCs for the properties to be advertised with the permits. The brokers themselves will do the descriptions. They will choose the main photo for the property advert, and then again our admins will make this alive, and it will go through a 3-step verification process with the direct team leader, the administration assistant, and then myself as the head of agency. And we do this again to ensure that all of our listings are quality and that they're getting the most amount of traction from the clients.
So quality is key to actually reel in those buyers. I think everyone agrees. It's too loud. That gentleman finds the volume a little bit too loud for the videos. So these are pretty much the top 3 things that you look at. Once you've got those fundamentals sorted out, we get into marketing it. If you've not got the agents, the right agents on board, if you've not figured out the right price point, regardless of what you do, your property is going to sit on the shelf and it's not going to sell. So I want to ask you guys, how many have tried something different, experimented with marketing recently? No one experiments? All right. We've actually got something pretty cool. We launched something called 360 Virtual Tours on the site. We send these headsets to a couple of our clients to experiment and test what it would look like. This goes back into talking about disruption within the real estate industry. And things are being disrupted. I mean, I had a conversation with an agent who said, you know, it's a bit of a problem if we don't get calls because people are spending too much time online figuring out what properties they like and they don't like. And I said, but don't you think it's a little bit better because you're saving time with your agents, not wasting time on leads that are going to pretty much walk away? And that was the conversation. That was the debate. So right now, based on research, a lot of homework is being done online. For the purpose of time, I wasn't able to share information on our millennial study that we conducted for last Cityscape. But what it said is that over 80% of home buyers within the UAE, within the millennial segment, who are looking to buy within the next 3 years, do majority of their research online and then get to an agent at the end stage. So this goes to say that that's what online world is for, right? They do the homework and they save the agent's time. I think we've got the screen a little bit stretched, but that's what it looks like on Dubizzle. It's a little bit skewed. All right, so the fundamentals. To market it right, you need to allocate the right budget. If you're an established brokerage, if you've already got your name out there, you'd have to, according to industry standards, allocate about 6 to 12% of your gross profit. If you're a new business, and there's a lot of new business being set up, new businesses in real estate being set up, trying to experiment and test in certain new developments, you'd have to set anywhere between 12 to 20% of your gross revenue aside. Now, what you do with this money is the most important thing, and this is where you have to really think of the channels that you're going to pick in regard to marketing. So when you're picking the channels, you think about online, digital marketing. You have to test and iterate. When it comes to social media, make yourself more human, as I say. I've got a lot of real estate brokers that are on my network. Some of them are doing it right on social media, and others are doing it totally wrong. The word social is actually conversational. So in other words, if you're a broker trying to advertise a property, a new listing, to your Facebook group, they're not going to see it. They're going to see it more as a sales pitch. You've got to make it conversational. So possibly tell people what's cool about the property, what's different, why they should buy in a mid-market community, what makes it interesting to them, but not really sell the property. So I saw someone post recently, oh, a new apartment in Dubai Marina, 3 million dirhams. I don't think anyone's going to click on that Dubizzle link and check out the property because it's not really going to do them much. Dubizzle actually publishes ads on Facebook for our brokers, so we reel in leads for our brokers in the market. But then there's agents that actually market themselves. This is an agent in the US who's actually one of the top gross revenue agents in the US. And you know what she does? She markets herself. She's built her business around knowledge, and knowledge is key. So what she does is she posts short videos of different questions that are commonly asked in the market. So what are the top things buyers should ask agents, for that matter, when they're trying to purchase a property, and so on and so forth. It's worth a try. Uploading videos through Instagram stories and Facebook stories is easy, and it's a good way to build traction among your network. You can check out a blog post on Property Spark, 40 real estate social media accounts you need to follow. This will be a good starting point to really gauge what you can do creatively around the social scene. And then obviously property portals in the UAE that you can use to kind of reach the masses. So I want to tell you that when you're actually trying to handpick these property portals, you need to check the facts. What are the numbers out there? There's everyone claiming to be the number one, but is it really true? Are you asking your account managers within these different companies what the numbers are? And what I'd like to share with you is a third-party study that was conducted by AIM report. It's pretty much a consultancy firm that publishes every year the top sites in every country. Dubizzle is ranked number 1 at 3.7 million visits only to property every single month. If we take a look just at the property for sale section on Dubizzle, it alone makes up 83% of our next-in-line competitors' total traffic. Now, there's a lot of talk about how we have rooms for rent on Dubizzle, and that can make up majority of the traffic. Trust me, if you want the numbers, please speak to our account managers. They're well equipped to share data with you if you want to know our reach in the market. We've actually hired an amazing group of individuals. I'm so humbled to be standing on stage speaking for the brand because they've gone back to the drawing board and they're addressing the user experience. They're addressing pretty much how buyers purchase or would look for a property on Dubizzle, or be it to buy it or rent. And this is our new layout. This is what's going to come out. You guys are actually some of the first people to see it, but we have a new layout, look and feel, a new user journey for people who are experiencing property on Dubizzle. We've also launched it across mobile web and our app, so if anyone's on the Dubizzle app, they would see these changes starting to unfold. What I want to say specifically about these design changes is they've been implemented based on testing and iteration, meaning the only way we release a design is after we make sure that it's actually going to be delivering more conversions to our agents and going to get more DPV views. By DPV, I mean detailed page views, which is your property ads that live on our site. So these are actually well thought of, and unless they're increasing the numbers, we don't release. Selected offline media. So the things you can do, we have one of our agents, House Hunters, that has a community stand in Arabian ranches. They're specialized in Arabian ranches. Now that's the kind of offline things that you can do if you're a specialist agent that wants to really, really own presence in a specific community. They also have yard signs all over the community. But one thing in marketing that I would tell brokers to avoid, unless you're developers with really big pockets, is avoid outdoor media. So you don't want to be spending $225,000 on a bridge banner per month to get your name out there. You could use it on social media or what have you. Building stickers, if you've got exclusive buildings, is another really good option. Investor nurturing programs. So if you've had leads that have actually stagnated and you want to revive them, you can send them communication, be it emails or SMS or what have you, on what's going on in the market. Sometimes all people need is a little bit of information about new trends, things that are changing, new interesting projects that are coming out. And it doesn't mean that they might buy in the next month or 2 months. They might buy in a year or 2 years, but you've built a relationship around that. Outdoor, again, I would say no. And please, in the digital age, stay away from print. So print media is dying. You do not want to be wasting your budgets on print media. Put it into online. Test on Facebook. Iterate. Figure out how you can actually generate leads through digital channels. But if you're going to be dumping $6,000 a month on a newspaper, gone are the days to be wasting budget on print. So these are the fundamentals. Track, track, track. The reason why we love online marketing is because you can track everything. You can calculate the cost per lead, the cost per click, and actually iterate to make your campaigns better and reel in the right buyers. So on Dubizzle specifically, if you are an agent that signed up with us, I would say sign up for the lead tracking tool. You'll be able to record all the calls that are coming through, the ones that you've missed. You'd be able to figure out the fallback calls and get back to them, and this also helps you figure out your agent's performance, backtrack and listen to calls and see if they're doing a good job or not, help them out, figure out how to build your team from the grassroots up. I want to touch on one thing that kind of sums up what's been going on in the conference today around disruption. How many people have seen this chart around exponential growth? Yeah. Yeah, there are a few, and I've presented it twice before, and the reason why I think it's so important to share this graph in every marketing presentation is because things are being disrupted. And when I say exponential growth, I mean gone are the days of linear. Let me explain it in really simple terms. This is what got me thinking when I thought about it like this. If I stand right here, and I want to walk 30 steps. I want to get 30 meters away, 1 step a meter. I take 1 step, I add 1 more, 30 of those are going to be 30 linear steps. Exponential growth is something completely different, and that's what's happening in technology. Ever since the microprocessor was invented in 1971, Gordon Moore came up with the law of exponential growth, and he said every 12 months, everything would double in the technology industry. What does this mean? That 30 exponential steps are actually 1 billion steps away. That's actually 32 times around the globe. That's going around the globe 32 times. And when you think about that, if technology is expanding at that rate, this goes back to the talk, this gentleman over here who was on the panel discussion about blockchain technology. Things are being disrupted, and it's going to hit us much faster than we think, and we've got to be prepared for it. So you could either be an innovator, and you could jump on the bandwagon and try and figure out how you can innovate within the industry, or you could be a laggard. And if you're a laggard in an exponential era, you are going to be pushed off the charts, and you are not going to exist. And I don't mean to scare people, but to be quite honest, I love the talk by Omar Qasim because he put things quite in perspective. And if we're not scared, we're not going to be looking for new solutions. We're not going to be trying to find new creative solutions within our industry. So how do we deal? We need to think big and ask the bolder questions. And that goes around exponential technology. Now, I know I'm running out of time, so I can't get into asking what these kind of questions might be, but this is everything around blockchain technology. This is everything around VR. This is everything about things being digitized. And, you know, agents are going to be needed because there's going to be a personal contact that's needed. But to what extent is something that we need to deal with? So what are we facing? This goes back to ground zero. These were the points we addressed in slide 1. What do we do about it? We build the relationship and price realistically when it comes to difficult sellers. When it comes to the buyer segment, we need to be aware of the changing buyer profile. Mortgage buyers, where are they looking and what are their nationalities? Change in mortgage versus cash purchases. Advise that the buyers needs to be pre-approved if they're a mortgage buyer. Find out a little bit more about what's going on in the market in the mortgage scene. Partner with a mortgage broker. And lastly, the need for highly skilled, knowledgeable agents. Train and nurture agents, and you need the right leadership to guide these agents to make the right decisions. So what are the action points I'm going to leave you with? Number 1, set up a brainstorming session to discuss fundamental improvements needed. You could do this next week. 2, Test something new in marketing. Test something in terms of social media. Set up an Instagram story or a Facebook Live video that talks about the questions you should ask as a buyer in this market. What are the communities you should look in if you're looking at a mid-market segment? The third thing you can do is set up a 360 appraisal survey. You need the right team. If your team's not happy, they're not going to deliver. And it's as simple as that. So 3 takeaways is that change is constant. We've got to embrace it, we've got to accept it, and we've got to roll with it. The second thing is make time to ask the bigger questions. Look up things around exponential technology, how it's disrupting the real estate industry, and see how you can make a difference within this arena. And the third thing is test and iterate, but do not stagnate. Even if you're going to put aside a $1,000 budget for a test marketing campaign, test something new. Dream big, start small, and act now. Thank you.